Moreover, Rabbi said we're going to count Sphira after the yeshiva speaks. We ask everybody to please remain. We'll count Sphira together, B'Ravam. We're all here tonight to hear the yeshiva, and since he needs no introduction and never likes one, I'm not going to give one. But looking around and looking at who's here, those of us that are here, there's something that I'd like to say, and in saying it, I have to disagree with something that the yeshiva told me and that he often says publicly. The truth is, I can do it tonight. I wouldn't have been able to do it 2 nights ago because I wanted the yeshiva's Gesundheit to be my sandik yesterday at my son's bris. And Baruch Hashem, he did it already. So tonight I can disagree with him. I wouldn't have done it 2 nights ago. The yeshiva very often tells us that he doesn't really live in Cleveland. He lives in a shtetl called Wycliffe, far away, and therefore is not involved in the day-to-day activities of Cleveland. And with all due respect, I would beg to differ. All of us that care at all about Torah and Das Torah, and that look to our betters and our graders, know that the yeshiva lives very much in Cleveland. And I just want to share with you something that occurred to me that I'd like and I would beg, literally, for you to share with your friends, those that are not here tonight. There are many examples of this in Chazal, but I'd like to give just 1 or 2. There's a Gemara Shabbos Daf Kuf Mem Ches. Rabbi Bar Bar Chana Ikla L'Pumbedisa. Rabbi Bar Bar Chana came to Pumbedisa, where Rav Yehuda was the Rav. Loyol Lepirkei de Rav Yehuda. So for whatever reason, Rav Yehuda gave his regular shir, and Rabbi Bar Bar Chana did not come. So Rav Yehuda sent for him, and he told his shliach Zil Garve, go and drag him by the lapels. Go pick him up by his garments and bring him. And he did. Now, if this is or isn't surprising, it's kedai once in a while to learn a little bit of Jewish history. Rabbi Bar Bar Chana was from the first door of Amoraim. Rav Yehuda was from the second door. Rabbi Bar Bar Chana was a chaver of Rav and Shmuel. Rav Yehuda was a Talmid of Shmuel. So Rabbi Bar Bar Chana was an elder Yid, and Rav Yehuda was a younger man. But Rav Yehuda was the Morada Asra, and therefore he was allowed to send for Rabbi Bar Bar Chana to drag him. And that was even when the Maggid Shir was young, and the one that was being sent for was old. There's a Gemara in Erev and Daf Tzadik Daled, Rabbi Isai, that tells us that Rav and Shmuel were up together on Shabbos. So a wall fell down. So Shmuel at that time was the Rav of that city, and Amalo Shmuel Shkulu Glima Negiduba. Shmuel said up is that they should hang up a certain garment. Ahadrinu Rav La'ape. So Rav turned his head. So Amalu Shmuel Ikopid Abba Shkulu Hemene V'Kotruba. If Rav has a taina, go grab his garment and hang it up, because he has no right to disagree. So the Gemara says that Rav Taka disagreed. So why didn't he say anything if he disagreed? He held that Shmuel's doing something wrong in halacha. So the Gemara said because it was Asrei de Shmuel, because it was Shmuel's city, and in Shmuel's city you don't say anything against Shmuel. Why did Rav turn his head? Because Fort Rav held not like that. He didn't want anybody later to be able to say that he held like that. Mariah Rabbi say, what I have to say to you, we have to say to all the others outside. And that is that this is Asrei the Rosh Yeshiva Shlita. This is the city of the Rosh Yeshiva. Hitaka lives in Wycliffe, but he also lives in Cleveland. Umimenu teitei Torah Cleveland at least. These days, the Rosh Yeshiva's Gesundheit is the Rosh HaMedabrim B'chol Mokum. If it's at Knessia Gedolos, if it's at Aguda conventions, if it's at medical conventions, the first one to speak outside of Cleveland is the Rosh Yeshiva. But what they do outside of Cleveland is their business, it's not ours. But in Cleveland, we at least have a chiyuv to know, and we have a chiyuv to tell our friends and neighbors that it's Asrei de Rav Gifter Shlita. This is the place where we have to come to listen to him, to be makabel das Torah, to be makabel te chochom musar if he wants to give it, to listen, to learn, and to do. It's not something that I have to say to the people that are here, because we're all here. But I would like everybody to tell it to their friends and neighbors, even those that are sitting and learning. The chiyuv here in our city is to come to hear the Rosh Yeshiva Shlita, Asrei Demar. The Kavod Gadol the Rosh Yeshiva tells Rabbi Mordechai Gifter.
You have placed a great responsibility upon my shoulders. I don't know whether at this age of mine I'm in a position to carry such responsibility. Asrei de Reish Yeshiva. Even when we lived in Cleveland, I didn't consider Cleveland Asrei de Reish Yeshiva. Various reasons for it. Certainly now, when we're out of Cleveland, we're out of the boundaries of Cleveland. It's a zweite Stadt, whether you like it or not. And we are in Lake County, no longer in Cahoga County. So we're outside of the city, outside of the county, we're only in the same state. Weiß ich nicht, so das macht von mir die Achleies von Asrei. And I'll bring a proof to it. If this were Asrei, if this were my place, so I would be here tonight because the Asrei called for me. The truth of the matter is the opposite way around. I asked Reb Abbe to try to get me invited to be here tonight. Why? Because I was the first rabbi of Young Israel here in Cleveland. And when the duties in the yeshiva became overburdening, so I told Young Israel, it's time for you to have a rov. And that's what created the Young Israel rabbinate here in town. So my friends, the very fact that I'm not asked to come here to speak, but I'm the one who asks to be asked to come, already proves beyond any doubt that it's not Asrei Demar. I think everyone will agree, even Rav Feitman will agree to that proof. Sha'araye brure she'ein oleh tshuva. No question about it. Ich habe aber fortlieb zu kommen in Cleveland und sagen ein Yiddish Wort. And it's been years that I haven't been here for Pesach. Hat sich mir verwollt. Wir sein in the Young Israel und sagen ein Wort. Pesach. Reden wegen die Meyadi. And what's a better time than in the Meyad Pesach? Man geht es singen. Eile Meyade Hashem, asher tikru oisom mitroi kodesh. The Yomim Tovim are called Meyade Hashem. In English, they translate it as the festivals of the Almighty. Das ist aber mit kennet kein Sprach, even though it's in the biblical translation. Kennen it Kodoshin Kodesh, weiß man it was Moed meant. Moed has nothing to do with festivals. What is Moed? You will find that a day of Tzar, of Tainis, Yodin V'Anocha, is also called by the Novi Moed. Tisha B'Av is called by the Novi Koro Olai Moed, Lishboir Machuroi. It's a Moed. No festival in that. So what is Moed? So I have the schus to heaven for my rib. Zechleina Levrocha, them tells her off what Moed means. The Hebrew root of the word is Vad. Lehitvaed. To meet with. Ele Moed Hashem. These are the days when we meet with the Ribbono Shel Olam. We stand together with Him. And this moed with Him can be through a Yom Tov, the regalim. It can also be, Rachmana litzlan, through a Yom Tzar, through a Yom Tainis, Tisha B'Av, Churban Beis HaMikdash. But it's also a moed. It's a day when we meet with the Ribbono Shel Olam, if we realize that we have to meet with Him. There are those who have no interest in meeting with Hashem Yisborach. But to those who have an interest in meeting with Hashem, there are days that have been appointed by Hashem Yisborach, that in these days you will have the opportunity to meet with me. If you will observe those days properly, you will then meet with Hashem Yisborach. That's the purpose of Moyadim. That's the purpose of our Yomim Tovim. That was the purpose of Aliyah L'Regel on these three Moyadim: Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. To go up to Yerushalayim and don't have any fear that someone will take away your land where you're not home taking care of it. Have no fears, because you're going up to meet Hashem Yisborach, and He can be relied upon to take better care of what you leave home than all the guards that you will leave there. Today, we live in a period in Jewish history where we're far removed from this concept. Far removed from the concept of Shemer Yisrael, Shmur Sheiles Yisrael. To realize and live through this fact that Hashem Yisborach guards over us. Hituns. Very few realize it. And what's the wonder? So many of us say daily, the Yud Gimel Ikre Emunah, Ani Ma'amin, Ani Ma'amin, Ani Ma'amin. So many of us say daily, Ani Ma'amin, B'chol Yoim Sheyovi. I believe faithfully every day in the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu. Und Yoitze is me mitten so. Are we really waiting for Him? The Chofetz Chaim, Zecher Tzadik Livroche, would walk to his window and pick up the shade. Oi, kommt doch bald. That's how he lived in Ani Ma'amin. He didn't just say it, but we say Ani Ma'amin, but do we live through it? Or, da früher sehen, was tut sich ein mit dem stock market. And it always reminds me of a little story that I heard overseas. A fellow living on the countryside. Es ruft nach solchen Menschen Yeshuvnikes. Sie haben gelebt in Stott. Sie haben gelebt auf dem Yeshiv. Maggid came to town, traveling Maggidim to deliver droshes, me'ores and Klal Yisrael. So he came in to hear the Maggid. What was the topic that the Maggid discussed? He spoke about the advent of Mashiach. It was also great. We have to get ready for Mashiach. And when He comes, we'll have to leave all that we have behind. We have to go to Eretz Yisrael. This Yeshuvnik came home and tells his wife, "Dies gehört von der Maggid. Als me wart alle Tag, Mashiach soll kommen. Und wenn wird kommen, wird man davon überlosen, die Schäferle und die Kiale." Da ist doch ein Yeshuvnik, hat doch eine eigene Kiale, his own little cow, his own little lamb. Alles hat man davon überlosen durch. Weiß nicht, was man tun. Hat gesagt, die Frau seine ein. Sei nicht Kinder, wir haben übergelebt, was ich viel Zores. Wir sind überleben Mashiach nicht. That's the way people approach Advent of Mashiach, they're not standing waiting for him. Jawel, when are you coming? So that's why he's always just around the corner. And he doesn't appear. Because we're not really waiting for him. And many times he knocks on the door. And we're too lazy to open the door. That's how we perform this mitzvah of emunah, b'vias HaMashiach. One of the 13 principles of our emunah in Hashem Yisborach and in His Torah. We have a lot to think about in these matters. Especially on the Moed of Pesach. Zman Cheruseinu. Gulas Yisrael miMitzrayim. And had we been worthy of it, Mashiach would then have come, and we would have been put off on alle tzores. But the purpose of it all was to serve Hashem Yisborach al Ohor Hazeh. When you will be given Torah on Har Sinai, there you shall become the Oved Hashem. And immediately following, there followed the Maaseh HaEgel. And therefore, we are still in Golus. A Golus of Bayis Rishon, a Golus of Bayis Sheni. We haven't gotten through it all. It's now 40 years since the establishment of the Jewish state, which was given the name Israel. Not Eretz Yisrael, nor Israel. Yisrael. 40 years ago, came into being. You go to Yerushalayim today, and you take a walk, you go up to Har Herzl. Über eine Kleinigkeit, Herzl. Ha? Hat gebracht Mashiach. Do we realize who gave the term Zionism? Everyone attributes it to Herzl. Shekel Kozov. He thought that the salvation for Jews would be through all of Israel going to the Pope and becoming Catholics. And he said that he would lead the march. Nu, das ist Geule, das ist Cherus. And then he came around with a new idea. Uganda. Eden von Gola sollen gehen in Uganda. I'm pulling them Meshuggah. Who created the word Zionism? Believe it or not. One who later became the greatest Baal Tshuva in ages. Dr. Nosson Birnbaum. One who served every Avodah Zorah under the sun. And he told Herzl, bist doch Meshuggah. Eden sollen gehen in Uganda. Was ist es schlecht in Russland, sollen man gehen in Uganda? Jews believe in Zion. Herzl had never heard the term. Coming from a goyische Zwiebe in Vienna, his family were completely assimilated into it. Call the movement Zionismus. And then you'll get people to follow. That's something that Jews love. It's a heritage of the ages. At that time, Birnbaum was not a Baal Tshuva. He was not a Maimon. But he later became a Maimon. That also has a story behind it. And from the time that he became a Maimon, he's no longer remembered in the world of Zionism. He writes that he was once on a lecture tour to the United States. On his way back, he was aboard ship. There were no planes in those days. And he writes, I lifted my eyes to the heavens, and I was overwhelmed with the vast expanse of the heavens. And then I looked down at the ocean, and again, the vast expanse of the waters of the ocean. And I became overwhelmed and said, there must be a creator. That's how he became a maimon. Tell me, is there any logic behind it? Ask the scientists. Ask the philosophers. Frag sie whether that's scientific to look up to the heavens and say there must be a creator. But the Novi Yeshaya did say that. Esoi nayal heorim, sumoroi meinechem. Lift your eyes to the heavens, uru and see, mi boro ele. Who has created this world? He didn't say uru ma boro ele. What has created this world? As all philosophers say, but mi boro ele. Who created this world? What is interesting is the Rambam in the Yad, which is devoted to the Halacha, the rules and regulations of how a Jew is to live, when he speaks about the two mitzvahs of Avas Hashem and Yiras Hashem. How do you get to Yireh, the Rambam says? How do you arrive at the reverence for Hashem Yisborach? He says, Su'umoroi meinechem, lift your eyes to the heavens, Ru'u, and then you will see, Mi boro eile. You will be overwhelmed with reverence. And from that you will come to Avas Hashem. Once a person is filled with reverence for the Creator, he begins to love Him. He begins to be attached to Him, to attract it to Him. That's what he says in Yad. Very interesting that in the Sefer HaMitzvahs, which is really the introduction of the Rambam to the Yad HaChazokeh, and there he enumerates all the Taryag mitzvahs. There, when he speaks about Av and Yiro, he does not say that posuk, Su'umoroi meinechem. He says, and how shall you arrive at Yiro? By looking into the Torah that Hashem Yisborach has given us, and studying what is written in that Torah. Thereby you shall arrive at it. It's contradictory one with the other. The introduction contradicts the work itself. Aber der Rambam hat ich verstanden. To tell a Jew, lift your eyes to the heavens and you shall see there is a Creator. You shall see. It's a very difficult thing. When can one lift his eyes to the heavens and see that there is a Creator? When he fills himself with Toras Hashem. When he involves himself in the study of Toras Hashem. When this becomes part of the marrow of his bones. Dan zetter dem Rebbeinu Shalom. And when he lifts his eyes to the heavens, he sees the Creator himself. But before he puts on those glasses, and he looks at these things through his natural eyesight, he doesn't see me, he sees Ma Bora Ele, as all philosophers say, and as all scientists say, except one. A few decades ago, believe it or not, Professor Eddington from England was a Maimon, a Goy. He was a mime. And he writes that science in itself, in all its wonders, bring forth a belief and a conviction that it is not of itself, it is of the Almighty. There is a Creator. A Goy hat das verstanden. But you have to be an Eddington for that. All other scientists never saw it. When I once told this to my Rebbe, I read a work by Eddington, Nature of the Physical World, and I saw there things that I think should be repeated to others in our camp. And he asked me, was hast du gesehen? I told him this word. Ui, wie gewaltig das ist. Truth does not necessarily have to emerge from the mouth of a bentere. It has to emerge from the mouth of a person who seeks truth. Science seeks no truth. Science seeks, how can I do this? How can I do that? For that we use science. Those who seek to understand the secrets of universe ultimately arrive at mi boro ele. But how do you look at a world? What is the perspective through which you must look? That is through Teure. Sitz id und lern Teure. Sitz id und tief sich in Teure. Torah study is not something of spending an hour a day on Yetze gewinn. Torah study means immersion in Teure. You're a businessman. Every moment in business has to be an expression of the desire of Hashem and His Teure. How is business to be led? Nicht lernen a blatt zwei Schofaren davnen. Und know them davnen, und know them gain in the business. And do business, the other two in business. For the Shehepachatere, totally alien to the atmosphere. Gneve, Gzele, Oinoe. Das ist Teure leben. Teure means total involvement in Teure. One of the greats over 200 years ago in the world of Teure, der Greiser Beis Ephraim, Rabbi Ephraim Zalman Margolius. When I ask Talmid Chachomim today who have grown up in the United States, wer ist gewesen, der Beis Ephraim? Sagen sie mir, oh, gewesen, a Greiser Rov. So you're making a terrible mistake. Rov, king will be gewesen. So what was he? He was a millionaire businessman. What? Yes. A millionaire businessman. It's not a businessman. Hardware was his business. Hardware. And he made millions in the business. But that business was Kula Teure. Became one of the poskim of the entire generation and generations after him. But the interesting thing is, in Brod, that Galicianer Stadt where he lived, he sent his Scheiles zum Broder Rov. Weil als sie da a Rov in a Stadt hatten bei ihm fragen die Scheiles. Und der Balabos, der Millionär, mag sein a Goan Adia that all of Israel sends to him. Aber lebt im Brod, darf fragen seine Scheiles beim Broder Rov. Das ist gelebt in Teure. That's what Torah study means. That's what Torah living means. And from that angle, we have to examine ourselves. Where do we stand? Is this what we mean when we talk about a shir in Torah? Is this what we mean when we talk about Torah life, Torah living, involvement in Torah? I think that we're so removed from what involvement in Torah means that we can't even grasp the truth of Torah. These are things that we have to give thought to, and very serious thought. He's just around the corner, Mashiach Tzidkenu. We should invite him in. But he sees such things going on that are contrary to an invitation. So Nebuch, pluckt sich, and he has to remain behind the door. He can't come in. And now we stand here in the moed of Zman Cheduseinu, Zman HaGeule. We should become overwhelmed with what is demanded of us. The schus of being a Ben Yisrael who received on Sinai a Torah HaKdosha, written by the Almighty Himself and spoken by Him to Moshe Rabbeinu. How great are we to have this merit of having been chosen for this purpose? Shouldn't we be proud of that purpose? Shouldn't this influence us to begin thinking about ourselves, to begin examining how we are living today? I'm not talking about those who are removed from the world of Torah. I'm talking about ourselves. And I'm talking about myself. Don't ever make the mistake that when I speak to you and with you, I'm talking about you. Then it wouldn't be worthwhile for me to speak, and certainly not for you to listen. The only value in it is to the extent that I include myself, reden zu sich, monnen von sich. Wo stehe ich in der Welt? Where am I? Am I up to the standard that Torah demands of me? Not extreme standards. I'm not an extremist. But to the standard of Torah observance that Torah demands of me. And we seem to forget that Torah observance means not only not to go to work on Shabbos, not only to daven every morning and to put on tefillin. Torah observance means the manner in which I walk down the street. Torah observance means how do I act with my customers in the business. Torah observance means how do I practice my law if I'm a lawyer. How do I practice my medicine if I'm a doctor? And so much of it is so far removed from Torah and Torah principles as hap from dem apachad. Torah observance demands of me. Du sagst bist am Eimin. You say you believe in everything Torah says. Did you give reckoning to how many times during this day you have spoken Lashon Hara, Lechilas, slander? Do you give time to that? Or, was habe ich getan? Many gerät. That's what people always say. Was habe ich getan? I didn't do anything. I only said something. Gewalt in der Welt. But the Torah says that this said something is not to be said. Und wir können sich nicht einhalten von dem. We can't control our Yetzer Hara. Isn't it wonderful to realize that der Heilige Chofetz Chaim Zichar Tzadik V'Kodesh Livroche was one who spoke so much that it's unbelievable. And he didn't speak one word of Lashon Hora. Oh, das heißt gelebt Teire. There was another Gaon in his time who didn't speak Lashon Hora, but he didn't speak at all. Gehalten vermacht die Meul fertig. Das heißt nicht gehiet Teire. Teire sagt, red ja. Man darf ja reden. Nur man darf hieten, was zu reden. Red nicht kein Lashon Hora. So maybe you will understand why I say I'm not talking to you. I'm talking also to myself. And I'm not a youngster anymore. So it's time to give thought. We're going to have to answer when you come upstairs. Er wird fragen, was du gerät Lashon Hora in this and this day, in this and this minute, after 8 o'clock. And I look around. How can I remember what I... Oh, you don't remember. Hast du doch nicht gelebt, Teire. You weren't aware of what you're doing, of what you're using your tongue for. And you say you lived by Teire? Shakran! Bist doch a Ligner, was ein Komeu. And as I grow older, I become very fearful of this. Very fearful. Aber das ist Teire leben. This is what we mean, living by Teire. We think that we do our duty if we're what is called Shemerei Shabbos. Meest a guten Scholglich auf Shabbos. Das ist gewaltig. Das ist Shemere Shabbos. Aber wie viel Lashon Hora redt man in a Shabbos? Because there's so much time for it. So whatever we gain through the beauty of the Shabbos, we destroy by not being able to control our tongues. That's only one example of how far removed we, the Torah community, are from Torah. I specifically don't like to use the word Orthodox because that has nothing to do with Torah. Orthodox is a Greek term. It has nothing to do with Torah. I'm interested in the Torah community. And Torah community means those who live by the dictates of Torah Hashem. Yeah, Orthodox, nicht Orthodox, geht gar nicht leben. Die Themen Eden hat man gerufen Orthodox. They never heard such a word in their lives. Orthodox. Hangt bei uns gewonnen, eine gewaltige Sache. I'm an Orthodox. You gambit up terminen. You borrow terminology from a non-Jewish world, and that becomes Torah living. Bis jenes. Let's get back into the fold as we should be. And now let me unburden myself of something that's been bothering me for a long time. I received a little card a while ago. Where did I put it? Little card, 2 lines. And see if you will be as shocked as I was. And then I'll tell you what I did about it. August 1986. Dear Rabbi, the 1986 Gay Pride Guide, you know what the gays are? I would wish that you wouldn't know, but I think that every Jew today knows what it is, unless he's living in a den, in a cave. The 1986 Gay Pride Guide, page 63, states that Yeshiva University has an Einstein Association of gays and lesbians. You hear the language? At the Department of Genetics, phone number 214-409-3364. Why is everyone silent? Signed by a gentleman, I don't know who he is, from Adam. Chaim Newmark, 184 Division Avenue, Brooklyn, New York. When I got this card, I became so shocked. Because ich nicht gekannt zusammennehmen. My alma mater is Yeshiva's Rabbeinu Yitzchak Elchanan. Were it not for that yeshiva, who knows where I would have been today. They mir gelernt Teure. And today, it's a department in a university. One of over 60 schools in the Yeshiva University. All the schools have a description that takes up a column or a column and a half. The Yeshiva has exactly 2 lines. But it's part of that university. And in that university, you have an association, an official association, gays and lesbians. If you read the weekly Cleveland Jewish News, you find in the synagogues mentioned also the gay synagogue of Cleveland. Rachmana litzlan. But here that gays should have a synagogue, it can kashenit. Anything can happen. But that in Yeshiva University should be an official association of Mishkat Schornikis who practice those things for which the Umes that lived in Eretz Yisrael were driven out from Eretz Yisrael to make place for us. I wrote to the president of the university. I sent him a copy of this card. What are you doing about it? I'm overwhelmed. I studied in the yeshiva. I cannot fathom that my alma mater should have sunk to such a degree. I wrote to his assistant, Rabbi Charlap. I wrote to the president of the Rabbinical Council, all from yeshiva. And I wrote to a few more. What was President Lamm's answer? That's the important thing. We have great heartache. But we cannot shut them down, because that would be, what did he write? That would be, ich habe vergessen das Wort. Discrimination. That would be discrimination. And when we will practice discrimination, all government aid to the university will be immediately stopped. That was his answer. Do you understand what that means? We are ready to sell all our beliefs for the sake of government funds. Rachmana litzlan. How far can we sink? There's nothing that can be done about it. Because we'll lose government funds, it will be considered discrimination. Weil der Goy wird sagen, as a Eid, was will nicht haben in seinem Institution, Mishkev Schur. That's discrimination. I have no words for it. And all to whom I've written, who can possibly have influence in this, answer the same way. Wir sein verkäuftet zum Dollar. Verschließ die University. Wer dafür haben? In my day, the boys who wanted university studies went to CCNY, to NYU, and to Columbia. Can't they do it today? Must you have your own university? Contrary to what Hashem Yisborach dictates? Must that be the way to live? And you call that the disgrace? You call it Yeshiva University. Take off the name of Yeshiva, so it'll be another university like Columbia and all the others. Of a Yeshiva, where you list the Yeshiva itself as a school in the university. Rachmana litzlan. This is the world we live in. I wrote to Mr. Irving Stone, who is a member of the $1 Million Club. $100 million was raised at the anniversary, the 100th anniversary. He was one of those who contributed $1 million. Und doch a teurer Mensch. He gives a lot of money for yeshivas. So I wrote to him. I got an answer. I realized immediately that he sent a letter to Lamm, and Lamm composed the answer, and he signed his name, because it was practically the same wording as the letter that Lamm had sent me. So I realized that this is not Stone's language. You can't get moving. Sa Unglück. Mir sagen, als es eine schömere das, schömere Tere. We must do something to stop this Chilul Shem Shomayim beferhesje. We must do something. And we can't just... We must do something. And we can't just brush it off and say, well, that's Yeshivas B'tzchol Cholam. Yeshivas B'tzchol Cholam, if it hadn't been in the United States, no yeshiva would be here today. All the European yeshivas that came here after the war, because there was a Yeshivas B'tzchol Cholam, who had laid the foundations of Yeshiva Torah. Mit Tordus nicht mevatel sein. And it's our specific duty to see to it as Torah Jews that this should stop. We carry a terrible responsibility. Now, let's read further. An article in the media, New York Times, March 24th, 1988, not too long ago. This is a report by a reporter named Ari Goldman in the New York Times. It begins, ultra-Orthodox Jews, not Orthodox Jews, but ultra-Orthodox Jews. You know what that means. The Kanoi, the extremists, ultra-Orthodox Jews, including the Hasidim, have set the religious agenda for too long in both the United States and Israel. They're not the ones to determine what is religion and what is not religion. The president of Yeshiva University said Tuesday, calling on moderate
Orthodox elements to reassert themselves. Zog dem Wort, was lässt sich kriechen auf den Kopf from these fellows. Here Craig, in a major speech on centrist orthodoxy, centrist orthodoxy, not rightist, leftist, centrist orthodoxy. I'll soon tell you what that means. Dr. Norman Lamm addressed a question that also has echoes in other faiths. Listen to the question. Rav Feitman, help me rein die Scheile. The question raised and posed by Dr. Lamm. In an age when fundamentalists are flexing their religious muscle, they even have candidates for the presidency in the United States. The fundamentalists. Can moderate voices be heard? Or everything has to be by the fundamentalists. So he sagt, the Shove, a frumer Eid, was weiß nicht vom Pschores, from compromises, is equated with the fundamentalists of the Christian faith here in the United States. Das hat Dorle. Und das ist der Präsident von Yeshiva University. He studied there a little bit after me. Moderation should never be confused with indecisiveness. If you're moderate, verkehrt. The fanatic is indecisive. And because he is afraid, therefore he becomes a fanatic. What made it? But if one is convinced in the truth, so he needn't be a fanatic. He can afford to be a moderate person. A strong heart can risk being an open heart. Wir erklärt. Aber der Eid, wir sind nicht kein starke Herzen, so we can't have open hearts. Hört no die Rede, was mir redt. This was delivered, this talk, in Fifth Avenue Synagogue, the former synagogue of Lord Jakobovich, who was just knighted by Thatcher in England. Und ist fromm, was früher kann it sein. That's where he practiced his rabbinate. Heinz sitzt dort einer, früher dort gewinn Lamm himself, und Heinz sitzt dort einer, einmal gewinn Rachman, ich weiß wer, und Heinz sitzt dort einer, was ein Lamm ist in der Zellekle gewesen. Und da sie wächst Jüdischkeit in Amerika. Und wir meinen doch, dass wir sein in die Jüdischkeit. Now listen to this nice sentence. Dr. Lamm, who is also a rabbi, kann doch meinen, dass wir sollen, he's only a doctor. Die anderen meinen, als unser teurer Rav Fried is not a Dr. Fried. I specifically call him Dr. Fried, gedem soll sehen, als a Rav Fried is gegangen in college and blieb Maid. That's why I use that title. So the New York Times Bavot, who is also a rabbi, said he was moved to delineate where centrist orthodoxy stands and to articulate what he saw as its legitimacy, because it has become embattled both from the right and from the other major branches, the conservative and reform. We on the right are battling against the centrists. What's the term centrist mean? That he explained a long time ago. Geht mit einem Rambam in Hand. And the Rambam points out in Yad HaChazoke that a person should go in the road of what? Derech HaMemutzo. Between the two extremes. Don't go to the extreme left. Don't go to the extreme right in the observance of Torah. Go b'derech HaMemutzo. That's the Rambam's centrism. Kovnerov, Zichatzalik Levroche, once delivered a masterpiece of a lecture on Taras HaMishpoche many, many years ago when I was a Talmid in Pils. And I must tell you, it's such a masterpiece. It was delivered in Yiddish, but he later translated it into Lashon HaKodesh with notes. A chibur. I don't know whether his famous chibur in Halochet Dvar Avrom stands greater than this lecture on Taras HaMishpach. It's overwhelming. In that lecture, he makes mention of a very interesting thing that belongs to the topic we are now discussing. He says, I know a young man, a great Talmid chochom. He doesn't call him Avrech, which would mean that he's already married. So he's still a bocher. A great Talmid chochom. And he acts in very extreme manner in sein Yiddishkeit. So I asked him, why must you go in the manner of extremism? After all, the Rambam says, derech ha-memutze. Nice in the kasha. Aber Herr for der Ilu hat ihn geentfert. Some may have heard it once from me. And I suspect that I know who that Ilu was. The Motel Paglamanski, Zichar Tzadik, Kodesh Levroch. He said to the Rav, I am going to the extreme right. Chas v'cholile. I'm in the derech ha-memutze. I'm the centrist. In order, however, to know what is the center road, one must be very well and totally acquainted with the two extremes, so that he should be able to measure where is the center. What are you going to do, he said to the Rav, when a fellow puts himself into the left and looks for the center of the left? That center, that's derech ha-memutze. I have seen both extremes, and I have measured them both carefully. And what I do is the center road. All those who do differently is because they are in the left. They don't know what the right is. They're far removed, they're in the left. But they're not completely left. They're in the center of the left. Tat in Himmel die Emes, das is hangt. Rechts hoppen kein Scheiches nicht. Man sitzt in links. No, not completely left. Because if you'd be completely left, you'd be where the forwards is a mol gewesen. Und ist in Baruch Hashem nicht da. That's completely left. You eat sandwiches on Yom Kippur. That's completely left. So you're not that far, but you're in the left center. Das ist das. Ja. Und das ruft man an Centrism, und man hält das in die Mitzvah, sie zu sein, als Hab in dem Chodim. Centrist orthodoxy, says our good friend Lamm, follows the halacha. It follows the halacha. I don't know what that means. Whether you put the halacha up in a sefer and you follow behind it, or follows the halacha is, the halacha governs what you should do. Follows the halacha. Or, what's halacha? Traditional law, as spelling out the authoritative norm of daily conduct, including Sabbath observance and adherence to kosher dietary laws, as well as moral and ethical behavior. This is centrist philosophy. Once you do that, you're okay. You don't have to measure whether your business dealings halten euch die Dienung von Gnevig, Seele, Oinoe, Ribis, noch als Meises. Don't be foolish spending time in that. But your moral behavior, whatever that is, and your ethical behavior, whatever that is, and you observe kashrus, you don't observe it to be so makpi to get the best extra you can, but if it's got a you on it, it's saying good. Did you ask who's responsible for the you? Who's the individual that goes to the factory upon which the Jew is built? Das ist doch gar nicht gefragt. Ask me, I was once in a rabbinate. Can I say? Kashrus observance and Sabbath observance. Sabbath observance. Eat fragen a Sachiden. They say they put on their radios and televisions on by clock to work the entire Shabbos, when it shouldn't work and when it should work. But you can't live without it. But they're Shemari Shabbos, so they have it by a Sabbath observance. I leave it to you to tell me if that's a Shabbos or that's a joke, not a Shabbos. Close this for Eich. But unlike what he called the right wing, I belong to that wing. Dr. Lamm said the centrist group is open to secular culture, is unabashedly Zionist, and values tolerance of different opinions. Now let's take it one by one. In other words, I, the rightist, am not open to secular culture. That's an outright lie. A total sheker. There's a tshuva of the Netziv in Meshiv Dover, that Gaon, the head of Alozale Yeshiva. He was asked what should be our approach to secular culture. He said, definitely secular culture can add a great deal to the proper understanding of Torah. The question is, when should the student go to college? Should he first become a Talmid chochom and then go to college? Or should he go to college and then try to become a Talmid chochom? If he does it that way, there's no hope for him. You don't have to bring proof from Torah for that. You only have to have so that's out. Finished. Now, he's unabashedly Zionist. So I'm not Zionist. Die Chutzpah von dem. Who then is Zionist? Et nicht der Yid versucht, sich sehne inenu beschufko berachmim lezion. And who says that? The Zionist organization says it. They davnen daimol atog. Or that these terrible fanatics, the rightists, sie halten in ein Sogen, Zion, Zion, Zion. Their entire lifeblood is Zion. Kommt sie gegen ein Idiot und sagt, and it's published in a newspaper, everything has to be in the media. Say it in the Fifth Avenue Synagogue. For that design in New York Times. But that's publicity. That makes the president of the university a great man. He's spoken about in the New York Times. So if someone is a Zionist, the question is, what do you mean he's a Zionist? He's a member of a Zionist organization, or he's a member of the Rebbeinu Shalom Zionist organization? Zionist organization does he belong to? Is he part of World Jewish Congress? Is he part of American Jewish Congress, who declare themselves as leaders of the American Jewish public and the world Jewish public? And we have given Yasher Keach Alex Mendelson for his letter to the editor about that topic. Who made you leaders? Is that Gvirim? Und ihr gemacht von Organisation? Und ihr sagt, ihr seid Leaders? Für wem seid ihr Leaders? Für mir seid ihr Leader. Für jene Menschen seid ihr Leader. You're a leader of yourself, and then I also have big doubts about it. They're leaders. No. Those is Zionist and values tolerance of different opinions. Since when is a Torah Jew does not value different opinions? But if the opinion is kfira be'iker, not only we don't value it, but we combat it with all the power that we have. And he goes on to say that you have to have respect even for the Reform who have done away with any semblance of halacha.
and for the conservatives. And you have to be in an organization together with them, like the Synagogue Council of America. I leave it to you, my friends. Retter mit Zeichel, etwa idiot. A gelem v'sein komeu. And this is a president of a university. I don't know where he can stand up in comparison to the president of Columbia, or the president of McGill in Canada, or to the president of even of NYU, University of California. I don't know where he could stand in comparison to them. Und der Mensch geht es mir lernen, zu haben der Geretz for secular knowledge. Bis jenes in noch wenig gerät. Bis jenes ist wenig gerät. Hasidic and other right-wing institutions. Weißt du, Mr. Hotz, Hasidim, maar alles alleen van Hasidische familie. Weißt du, was am Fluch von Hasidim? Meila ich, der Misnaget, wollte es gesagt. Nu, als alleen van Hasidische familie, was will oben von Hasidim? They frown on secular knowledge beyond that necessary to earn a living. If it's not necessary to earn a living, 'twas darfst es wissen. I don't know that it is so. The Chazenish Ichlene Livroche, his pious in secular knowledge, halawai wollten die Professoren von die goyischen Universitäten vermocht the knowledge in secular knowledge that he possessed. There was a professor of medicine in Tel Aviv, a famous brain surgeon. The Chazenish sent a Jew from Bnei Brak to this brain surgeon to operate on this person's brain. It was necessary. He came back to the Chazenish and said, the doctor said he can't do it, because in order to operate on my trouble, he would have to actually cut into the brain itself. Then he'll be killing me. So the Chazenish immediately took a piece of paper and made a diagram of how that operation should be performed. Nimm das zurück zu ihm und sage, macht meiner Freies, als he soll machen the operation, the surgery. He did it. Der Ried lebt am heutigen Tag. From that day on, this surgeon never performed surgery without consulting with the Chazenish. And when the Chazenish passed on, he gave up that work. No more. So did the Chazenish know secular knowledge? What are you going to tell me? He didn't know any secular knowledge, but he had Ruach HaKodesh, and he saw through Ruach HaKodesh how the operation is to be performed, and this is it. Nein, hat gewusst. Hat gewusst. Der Steipel is kleine Levroche hat gewusst. It's surprising for one who met with him how broad his knowledge was in such areas. Want is gewusst, weil Bischof Leile hat gelernt wegen dem. But he didn't have to spend years in university for it. Got a golden Kopf, a teure Kopf, so he grasped it. Und da kommt sie gehen. Ich könnte ein anderes Wort, ein Idiot. Und geht uns lernen, what secular knowledge is. Du darfst uns gehen lernen, haben den Chazal nicht gesagt. Teure Bagoyim, Altamin. If someone tells you that Goyim have Teure, don't ever believe it. Chochma Bagoyim, wisdom, they do have it. Das haben Goyim eif. Chazal tell us Adin. Reb Yechanan have a koin mikane saba ramoi. Reb Yechanan used to rise in respect for the elders who were Goyim. For an alten Goy wird sich Reb Yechanan stellen. Kapelle. Sogt Rashi Pshat. The Kama ha-patkoi odo alai. Das sogt die Gemara. And Rashi says, so many life's experiences they went through, so many tzores they went through, and they learned from these things that there is a beirei, that things are not from themselves, and this goy is therefore to be respected. I don't know whether you can say it about every old goy today. After a hippie age, und noch a solchen Mishugassen und Unglücken, wo die Welt leid von dem. Aber da sagen Chazal, so we have to be told that Lamm is the one who found out that secular knowledge also occupies a place in the world of a Torah Jew. And you darf gehen zu ihm das lernen. And if that isn't sufficient, the Orach Laneir, every yeshiva bocher knows, Orach Laneir. The Orach Laneir had a doctorate. He didn't publish the fact. He didn't brag about it, but he had a doctorate because it was necessary for him to have it. After he became the Gaon that he was, he had a doctorate. The Psamsel of Fall Hirsch, who saved German Jewry from reform and set up what is called the orthodoxy of Germany, and I call it the Torah Jewry of Germany. He was a doctor, Psamsel of Fall Hirsch. So Dr. Lamm has to come and tell us what secular knowledge can mean. Dr. Shloime Breuer is given a doctor who had to go to university and got his degree. And we could go on and on and on. But the tzidkes of these Jews, of these Gdolim, was such that this individual whom we've been quoting here has absolutely no contact with that type of individual. He doesn't know what it's all about. And he makes the mistake of thinking that we are not centrists. He makes the mistake of thinking that we are against secular knowledge. He makes the mistake of thinking that we are intolerant because we do not stand for reform and we cannot sit at one table with them. And lest you want to know who is right, so see what the Synagogue Council has done for American Jewry since it was organized. And see what Torah Jewry has done for American Jewry. And from that angle, measure what is truth and what is not truth. And the less it's put into the media, the less sinas Yisrael we will have. The less sinas Hagoyim we will have. Because we have to advertise in media that what he calls the rightists are against reform. They know we're against them. Must it be in the New York Times? But when it goes into the New York Times that Dr. Lamm said it, so Dr. Lamm gets support from these chevre. It means personal advantage. We will be able to approach them for funds for yeshiva university, because we can tolerate you also. You should not tolerate them. We have to tolerate it. But if he knows what Torah demands, and he says Torah has no value, dann darf man ihm Feind haben. Misanecho, Hashem esno, those who hate the Rebbeinu Shalom and make him hated by others, I hate them. And we're proud of the fact. We're not talking about laity. The layman, Tov Aleim Broche, they listen to a sermon by their rabbis and say the rabbi doesn't know what he's talking about anyway, but the synagogue has to have a rabbi. So, and he's got to deliver a sermon. Dat me from them. Don't say that I'm just fabricating. This is what one of the great conservative Jews here in Cleveland told me. I know that the rabbi doesn't know what he's talking about. But after all, I'm a member of conservative synagogue. So I said to him, well, you have to be a member there. You don't have enough Orthodox synagogues where you can become a member here in Cleveland. My father was a big man in that synagogue, so it's difficult for me. And that's why I like to support yeshivas, not pills, yeshivas in general. Because there I think there's some truth. But here I know it's nothing. It's a bunch of bunk. But this is it. Wat zal ik toch never? This is a great-grandson of one of the Geonim in Bialystok, nearly 200 years ago. Ihr helpt was ich red mit euch. And here this fellow comes along, and he has another complaint. Mamish, die Hart geht mir raus. He has a complaint that Orthodox Jews here and in Eretz Yisrael insist that anyone who didn't go through an Orthodox, that means a Torah conversion, should not be permitted to enter Eretz Yisrael as a Jew. Is there anything wrong in that? I'd like to understand. Lamm says it's wrong. The Chassidim have made this. Teire Yidden. Keinen. Als einer hat a Geres, a Reform Geres or a Conservative Geres, is kein Yid nicht. Du willst dir sagen, es ist ein Yid. Heißt es Unteire. Nicht kein Teire Yid. Was Teire halten für ein Yiden? Nur du willst ihm sagen für ein Yid. Nu fällt uns euch genug Goyim auf der Welt, dass wir nicht haben, nein, Goyim reinbringen in Eretz Yisrael. Wo soll sagen, sie sind Iden, und sie sollen uns noch brechen die Beine. Und das der Ege darf da reinreden in die gewaltige Lektie, in die gewaltige Drosche. Ich hab gleich keines auf Lubavitch, eh? Weil Lubavitch is continually behind this business of who is a Jew. Darf durchgehen ageres, wie es darf. Ich weiß der andere Mose, Lubavitch richtig gesagt. Hat gleiche Teines zu sehen. Rightist Orthodoxy concludes that since they are not legitimate, this is not a Gatus, we must have no truck with them at all. Das gehandelt mit Goy. Centrist Orthodoxy holds, and this is the Rambam's Derech HaMamutze, remember this, holds that one must indeed disagree with the non-Orthodox, richtig, but we must do so respectfully. We have the greatest respect for them. We tell them, you're not a Jew, and please leave us alone. We don't battle them. Wir schießen sie nicht. Wir schneiden sie nicht aus die Gedärme. Wir haben sie keine Teines, denn lasst uns leben. Ja. Halt, aber sie richtig als ich. Und wer stützt dem? No one in the Torah camp. But Rabbi Wolf Kelman, the conservative leader, who is the executive vice president of the Rabbinical Assembly, acknowledged the animosity that the conservatives and Reform have toward the Orthodox, but he said it came from efforts, particularly among ultra-Orthodox groups, not among ultra-Orthodox groups, to try to delegitimize non-Orthodox rabbis. You have a non-Orthodox rabbi here in Cleveland. He has a congregation. It's listed among all the congregations every week. And his wife is not a Gigeris, but a Goye. So you have to legitimize him. Und Azamin, gar nicht, das bringt a President von Yeshiva University sich zu stützen mit dem. The centrist Orthodox have not been our problem, Rabbi Kelman said. Was soll das ein Problem? Als Lamm alle Punkt wie doch kein Schumchilik nicht. And I would like that everything we've said here tonight should reach Lamm. Not Rabbi Lamm. Er ist nicht wirklich Schmichebeser gekrogen. But Dr. Lamm. It should reach him. Und soll verstehen. Wir finden nicht den Kampf with Reform and Conservative Jews. Sie sind verfehlte Menschen, Nebuch. Sie sind gar nicht schuldig. It's their leadership which considers it a holy duty to propagate a Judaism which is non-Judaism, contrary to Judaism. Because nothing is Judaism unless it's in accordance with Torah dictate. And anything that's not in accordance with it is not Judaism. The layman who knows never nothing, I have no complaints against him. It's my duty to try to see that he should begin to know. And Baruch Hashem, they have these Kirib groups today, and you have the Baal Tshuva groups today that are doing wonders in this field. Gebencht sollen sie alle sein. But therefore, to say that the leaders of these groups, whose whole purpose in life is to deny the validity of Torah as the word of Hashem Yisborach, that these are people to deal with. Chas v'cholile. I've already said that I would come to any Reform temple to speak, but without a panel of other rabbis. You want to hear what I have to say? I'm ready at any time. But to argue with another rabbi who doesn't believe in the validity of Torah, it's a waste of my time. I haven't time for that. But not to speak for them if they're interested. Why not? But they know that I'm not a centrist, so I never get the invitation. I told that once to Rabbi Feitner. Ich wollte gelaufen lebendig, aber man lacht mir nicht. Sein Tippchen so mehr. Lacht mir nicht. Na, man lacht mir nicht. Dann kann man doch mal reinkommen und sagen, Adros, wir haben doch willen hören. I know them as in heaven. So the majority, over 90%, will say something bad about this fellow. But there'll be maybe 10% who will begin thinking, he's not all bad. Kedai for them to reden. But how do I get in? I can't get in edgewise. They don't invite me. In years gone by, I used to get an invitation once in a while from what they called a non-Orthodox group. Today, no more. Because I represent ultra-Orthodox to them. Ich bin sehr weit von ultra-Orthodox, wie sie seien von dem. Ich weiß nicht, mit was man ist, ultra-Orthodox. Gentlemen, I've given you some opinions of what goes on today in the world in which we live. And in the Yom Tov of Pesach, Zman Cheruseinu, when we were brought forth into freedom under Torah of Hashem Yisborach, it's our duty to give thought to what is demanded of us and to tell Lamm and all his cohorts, mind your own business, go your way. We're not disturbing you in the least. Don't try to disturb us. If we shall so do, that the Rebbeinu Shalom arop gucken auf uns und sagen, du sich allein abhieten von aller Averes. And you won't try to say that you're fooling others, that you're observant 100%. And you will admit that you're not 100% observant. There are many things where you are not observant. If you will admit that and say, I'm going to try to become observant as Hashem Yisborach wants me to be, then He will look with favor upon us. And we will in that manner be able to bring in Moshiach, who's knocking at the door and says, Hot Rachmones Tayere Idalech, bringt mir allein, how long am I to stand outside? Even to the very last day.